as we bring in the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, a guy that is certainly and deservedly so going to get a lot of attention for the NBA's Coach of the Year for the outstanding job that he has done. We're speaking, of course, of Terry Stotts. And, Coach, isn't it nice to be hearing information about playoff tickets going on sale for the third straight year? Your team is in the postseason, and I know the work has begun already for getting ready for the playoffs. But tell us what this time is like. It's kind of unusual. I look at a lot of schedules for clubs, and some teams are playing back-to-back, squeezing all these games in so they get 82 in by Wednesday. But your team, meanwhile, a very unexpected break in terms of games. How are you spending this time in between Saturday night and Wednesday?
Well, a lot of rest. Everybody was on me for the last 2 or 3 weeks to make sure I rest my players. So yesterday was off. Today was extremely light, just with some shooting and some rehab work or whatever. And then tomorrow will be a light workout getting ready for Denver. Denver's still a team that we need to, as of now, we need to beat to get the 5th seed. So our focus is on that. And then after that, we will lock in on our playoff preparation.
You know, Coach, one of the things that stood out to me last night after the game, I was kind of looking back on what happened and how the game went. And part of me was disappointed that 2 nights ago that the Blazers lost the game because of the seeding. But then another part of me was thinking more about, being ready for the playoffs and being the team that's playing its best basketball going into the playoffs. Is that something that you guys think about, not just the team in front of you, but also how this is preparing you for everything that's happening?
Well, you like to stay in a good rhythm, and, there's always a good feeling if you're going into the playoffs playing well or on a roll or whatever you want to say, if you feel like you have some momentum. But when you get to the playoffs, and as soon as you lose a game, it's you kind of lose that momentum. The momentum of the playoff takes a life of its own.
It's interesting. We were talking about the possibility that you could still be the 5th seed, which would bring about a matchup with the 4th-seeded Clippers in the opening round of the playoffs. Argument created that maybe that's the best matchup for you. Some people may think there's another matchup that would be better than that. You've had a lot of experience in the playoffs. How much do you think it does come down to matchups when you analyze the chance of one team to beat another once you get to a best-of-7?
Well, I think there are certainly teams that play better against different various teams. And, when I was in Seattle, and, you remember that, Denver, we were the 1 seed, and Denver was the 8th seed, but they had beaten us twice during the regular season. That was a favorable matchup for Denver in the grand scheme of things. I would say half the time it's not about matchups. I think most of the time it's whether one team is better than another. But I do think there are situations where some teams do match up better with others.
Now, if the playoffs started today, the Jazz would be facing the Warriors. Do you think they would go into that series feeling confident that they could get the win?
I think they will go, no matter who goes in to that first series against Golden State, whoever that is. And right now it could be any one of 3 teams. But I think each and every one of them will go into it thinking that they have a chance to go steal one in Golden State and then come home with a 1-1, at least a 1-1 series.
In your time in the NBA, where would you rank the Warriors with now the very distinct possibility that they're going to set the all-time record for most wins in a single season? They have to win one more game at home against Memphis on Wednesday, so that would put them at 73-9 for an 82-game campaign. Where would you put that in terms of significance of team accomplishments that you've witnessed during your time in the league?
Oh, it's the most impressive. And then if you throw in, if they do win a championship, I mean, that puts them in the discussion of historically all-time great sports team, regardless of the sport. That puts them in, if, say, a team goes undefeated in the NFL and wins a championship. That's the context that you have to put it in. And in my time in the NBA, obviously the Bulls and the 72-10 was something that has been there for 20 years. And 20 years later, they're still talking about how great that team was. And Golden State is going to be in that same conversation.
Coach, I got to ask something Wills and I were just talking about earlier in the segment or earlier in the show. The idea that Steph Curry should even be considered for most improved. I mean, it sounds crazy considering he was the MVP last year, and yet it almost seems like there's a legitimate argument for it as well.
Well, that's kind of a tough question for me to answer because I think C.J. McCollum should win the award. But certainly you can make an argument that Steph Curry has certainly improved. And, I was listening to Jeff Van Gundy talking about the message that it sends that a great player can become even better and that it's worth, the work ethic that it takes to get better. So I would put Steph Curry in the conversation, no question, but my vote would go with CJ.
As coaches, I know one of the great bits of satisfaction that you have is to see the improvement in your club from training camp through the various stages of the season and so forth. In your time as a head coach in the NBA, where would you rank what this season has become in terms of expectations for a lot of the outsiders of what the season would be versus what it obviously has become, another playoff trip for the franchise, but one that was very unexpected for a lot of people. And the great thing about it is that your club hasn't just backed into it. I mean, they've earned the spot. They've gotten better as the season has gone on. And I would guess for you as the head coach, the satisfaction of seeing what has developed over the course of this campaign must be very, very gratifying.
Well, it really is. And, I've been involved with some teams that have exceeded expectations, whether it's our championship year in Dallas, the year we went to the finals in Seattle, in Milwaukee we were 7th or 8th seed, and then the following year we went to the conference finals. So there have been I've been fortunate to be a part of some teams that have exceeded expectations, and that's what is very gratifying anytime in sports is when you do something that people didn't think you could do. But for me as a head coach, this has been extremely gratifying, very rewarding that we accomplished our goals at the beginning of the season. And our goal wasn't necessarily, it was to make the playoffs, but we never put a number on it. But the goal was that the players, our young players, would improve. The team would get better as the season went along, and to make the playoffs was the goal. And when you put it in those contexts, anytime you kind of achieve what you set out to do, it's very rewarding.
For some, obviously, the season has been a surprise. Sometimes a lot happens when necessarily cameras aren't watching. And last time, and we bring this up because it was the last time we were in Los Angeles to play the Clippers, where we could very well be again this weekend. But Tony and I happened to be looking down on the court toward the end of warm-ups, and we happened to see Coach Stotts doing a little jump roping.
Yes.
Something that I was not aware that your athletic talents included that. But I wish we had video of it because I thought you did a very nice job.
Athletic. I was young and athletic at one point in my life.
But jump roping, that doesn't necessarily mean that requires coordination and there's a lot more that goes into it than just being young.
And I used to be coordinated too. So I mean.
I was impressed with the speed of the rope, Coach. It was the speed that impressed me.
Actually, I was pretty good with the jump rope because my father, who was a basketball coach, wanted me to become quicker and better coordinated, and he had me doing some jump rope exercise. I had a list of like 30 different things, crossing my hands, double skipping, side to side, front, back. So I learned how to do all that stuff. And the reason I was doing the jump roping is poor Luis Montero didn't know how to, kind of cross his hands and keep jump roping and then uncross them. And so in my time, I learned how to cross over right over left and then left over right and still keep jumping while your hands are crossed. And so I was just trying to give a little demonstration to the young fella that it is possible.
Because I'm always curious that whenever there's some talk, in fact, Tone had a recent invitation to get back into playing some basketball. Michael Holton said, come on back, and we got a good group of guys and so forth. And he turned it down. He's still young enough to be doing all this kind of stuff. I said, look at Coach Stotts jump roping down there. You could be back on the court playing basketball.
See, Coach, every time somebody mentions something like that, my back starts to hurt. Just now, my back started to hurt. Just hearing Wills talk about me playing basketball was enough to cause me pain.
Tone, how old are you?
46. I'll be 46 on my next birthday, so 45.
Yeah, you're getting to the basketball is a young man's sport.
Yes, it is.
I really admire the people who can play basketball past a certain age, but I've certainly given it up, and I understand you not having the urge to go out there and play. It's one thing to stand out there and shoot. It's one thing like to jump a little rope, but playing basketball is a different story.
Now, I will say this for the Coach, going back, and this goes back a long time. It was probably 96. But Coach Stotts used to play with me and Steve. Was it Scheffler?
Scheffler.
Oh, those I thoroughly enjoyed that. Like it's like what David Vanderpool and Nate Tibbetts are still able to do.
Right.
The good old days.
The good old days.
Good old days. Well, Coach, thank you very much. Congratulations on a great regular season, which hopefully will culminate on Wednesday with a nice victory. One last question. Fan Appreciation Night on Wednesday. The Nuggets in town, and you're going to end up selling out almost every game this season. A great testament once again to the support and following that you have here in Portland.
No question. I mean, every year I'm so proud of the fans and our home atmosphere. When I walk into the Moda Center and just the ambiance for all the regular season games, you guys as well as I know how special it is compared to some of the other arenas and the fan bases. And the fans of Portland have been tremendous since the day I got here, and they always have been for that matter. When I was with an opponent's team coming in, but I feel very fortunate that I'm part of a franchise that has such a loyal fan base.
Nice to have him on our side, that's for sure. Thank you again for the visit. Have a good day of practice tomorrow, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
All right, thanks, guys.